Good evening. Good evening. Tonight we have a very, very special show. I won't say it's super special, but tonight we got a good show with my one of my new co-hosts. So tonight we're going to have a discussion about interracial relationships. Some of the statements that Alfonso Roberto has said, as well as Raven Simone, and we're going to discuss interracial relations with this young lady who is joining the family, who's going to bring a unique perspective to Let's Talk, Miss Darling Nikki. And she's an artist, by the way, and I'm going to show you guys some of her art just as an introduction to who she is. Wow. We do have someone else joining us. Um, so where's she at? Here she comes. She's coming. She'll be here shortly. How you doing, Keisha?
I was asleep.
Well, well, Nikki, explain to the audience who you are, where you from, what made you decide to accept the invitation to get into podcasting and get into what we're trying to do.
Okay. My name is Nikki. I'm an artist. I'm based out of the Washington, D.C. area. I'm in the DMV, out of Virginia. I am family with the other co-host, with Keisha, and she added me to a group that you all have. And basically, that's how I got started. Yeah. So uh, I've been painting for about 5 years now. Been sketching and drawing for most of my life, but I just started taking on painting. So that's what I do
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Well, welcome aboard. Your cousin is a good friend of mine. As you know, we've been friends
Yes.
since the sandbox. That's my partner in crime. Um, all I can say is meeting somebody in her family that's a distant relative. Y'all have so many similarities. It ain't even funny.
I know. I know.
So I know that tonight we had decided that a good topic to discuss would be interracial relationships. So because of copyright issues, and I don't need no issues right now, y'all. I'm gonna play the Raven Simone clip so we can hear the audio, and then we'll discuss that, and then it's up to y'all how y'all want to handle it the other way, and we'll just discuss the complexity of what, and even people in the chat, if you want to talk about interracial relationships and your viewpoint on them, if you're in one, your viewpoint on it, and we'll go from there.
It was kind of a self-inflicted old way of thinking that the Black community would be mad that I was dating a white person, and it was this residual thought process that really wasn't fact. And
Right.
so I didn't know how to communicate that with her. That was one thing. Another
I had
thing,
no idea that
she
she
never knew
was
that.
struggling with any of those feelings whatsoever. I had no clue.
Like, I just thought staring at me all the time, and it felt weird. But then again, it wasn't really happening. I think I was just carrying burdens that happened in
I
the 90s.
know my experience as a white female. So
Right.
I have never, and because of the way I was raised and my community interracial relationships were never questioned. It was like, if you fall in love with an Asian person, a Black person, an Indian person, you know, whoever, that's who you love. And
Right.
I also just don't operate in that space. So to have to kind of like come over and then put myself in her shoes and think that she might feel, you know, resentment from her community or from people or disappointment, I was just something that I experienced, I felt compassion for. And then I wish that I had known as her partner, I could have maybe supported her, or helped have a conversation. But it's been interesting because since getting married, I actually have experienced little bits of that. So I have seen other people express their feelings about
Me
Raven
marrying
marrying a white person and judging me or coining me as a Karen or this, that, and the other.
Far from.
And
Wow. Well, we got Raven Symone, what she said about it, and her wife or whatever said what she said about it. I know that this had been a topic that Keisha, you had wanted to discuss for a while, because I know a lot of people tend to think that they know what you're thinking. Definitely when we discuss certain things about race in the group, so people tend to think that, oh, we know she got a problem with it or whatever. So expound, if Keisha, if you could go first, expound on what you first of all, what do you think of Raven's statement?
I think Raven is being ridiculous. Nobody cares. I mean, nobody cares. I think that um, for a person like Raven, what people have a problem with is Raven and not her partner, because Raven says things that comes across that she's against her own community. So it doesn't really have anything to do with um that she's dating someone outside of her race. It's probably more so of like, we knew that, so I think that was Raven. um that was a self-imposed issue that Raven was going through, because I don't think anybody cares.
I know that one of the things, Keisha, excuse me for 1 second, one of the things with Raven, that she had been having a lot of issues in regards to her self-identifying the last few years. Like,
Yeah,
she
she
one time she
confused.
said she felt as though she wasn't African American, and I know some people feel like the phrase African American could be a little um, misunderstood. I know she was like having issues saying she wasn't black or saying this and that. So Keisha, you think it's more of she was having issues?
I think Raven is very confused, and she's trying to transfer her issues onto the Black community, and we don't care. See,
What
because as Black women, we've always been desired by other races. Like, we don't care.
Well, let me ask you, how did you feel about when her wife said at first it was you love who you love, you fall in love who you fall in love with, and then when they got married, she said then she started witnessing backlash.
She was probably witnessing backlash from her own counterparts. Like, we don't care. Like, so here's my thing. And I've dated other races in my life, and now I have a preference, but I dated other races. I'm a little bit older than Raven. People may have looked, but it wasn't like your own people is gonna be like, oh, if she can't use your comb, don't bring her home, or something like that. But it's nothing like what they're making it out to be. It's like these Raven Simones and this Alphonse Ribeiro. Like, you're not connected to the Black community. Don't nobody care. Like, you're making a big deal about nothing. We don't care. We don't care.
Keisha, look at the screen.
What is he doing?
I don't know.
Hey, brother.
But
We don't care.
Nikki, what was your perspective on it? I know I had sent you the clip, and I know you was like, I got to dissect this. I can't do this right now. I'm at work. I wait till I get
Right.
home and really undress it.
I agree with Keisha. I think that honestly, as a Black community, we're the most accepting community. We really don't care. We date outside of our race all the time. I think it was more of an issue for her. I think it's how she feels about herself. I think she has some identity issues that she's struggling with. That's my personal opinion. Uh,
Right.
I think that I was reading up some things, that she was just talking about recently, and she starts talking about names of Black people, and she starts, digging deep into all these things and how she doesn't want to be identified.
She
So
hates herself.
yeah, I think it's some things that she's struggling with internally. And part of it could be due to, living the life that she lived as a child and growing up in that industry. And again, like I said, with the Black community, we're the most accepting community. We date, I mean, all outside of our race. It's not one of those things where we would say, oh well, she's dating a white female. I mean, we accept we how do I put it? Well, with her, she's saying, okay, it's a thing about her thing. She is part of the LGBT community. So that, I mean, if she was gonna say anything, she could have brought that up. But to bring up race, I don't think that that's an issue. I think that's her own personal issue.
Yeah, it did appear to be a little disingenuous, and then like to come out about it and then say the old ways. And Nikki, me and Keisha joke about something, and I'm gonna share it with the audience. For y'all that don't know, Keisha feel like she was born a little too late. Keisha has a thing for John Brown, y'all. If y'all don't know who John Brown is, if y'all don't know who John Brown is, just Google him. Keisha has a thing for John Brown because he showed it wasn't that he was white. It was basically that he had some damn heart and he was willing to get down for what he truly believed in. So with that, then we go to Alfonso Rivera before we get to what Funky Diva had mentioned about Raven. Keisha, Alfonso Rivera said like the Black community didn't accept him. Like this is Carlton we talking about.
Shut up. These people make me sick. They absolutely make my stomach hurt. Um, African Americans, I can't. I'm just gonna focus on us. We are mixed race people. We accept everyone. But what happens is for Black men, when you get up there and you be like, "Oh, this one is better than a Black woman," or something to that extent, that's when you get issues. But I mean, we all got white cousins or half white or half. I'm trying to think about my family. I got a half white cousin, I got a half Indian cousin. Like we all have additional mixed race people in our family. Nobody cares.
Right.
So I don't know what Carlton. No one likes you and no one cares that you have
Well, right now, I think he's just really irrelevant. I think that
right. Nobody cares.
when they bring these things up, oh, the Black culture, they're not going to accept this, they're not. The problem I have personally with interracial dating is a person that has a preference. So if you have a preference for one, that is an issue in itself. So outside of you dating what you want to date or falling in love with who you want to fall in love with, the only issue becomes when you say, I prefer Asian women because they're exotic, or I prefer, Latina women because they're exotic. That then, I think as a culture we have an issue because,
Right.
a Black woman is the most exotic woman that you're going to find. So when you start saying you prefer these other ethnicities,
Over your own.
over your own, then that starts saying that, you have probably some issues with maybe your mama or your daddy, and you really just start
Possibly
to
your mama.
yeah, if it's a man, you probably have some issues with your mama. If it's a female, you probably have some issues with your dad. Whatever it is when you start saying, okay, well, I have a preference for one over the other, and you're not open. And I think as Black women, we're very open, to well, not all of us, but we have a preference, but we're open. I would like to say I'm open. Yeah.
I think that when you hear the Serenas of the world or Tinka Sumter or any of these ones, even the old ones like Pearl Bailey and all these different things, they're not going out and looking for white men or going
Right.
out and looking for someone outside
Right.
of a Black man. They just fell in love. But I think what sometimes happens is sometimes you get these Black men that they want to dog Black women, and then that is where they get well, who raised you? Like that's where they get the negative feedback that comes their way. But it doesn't have anything to do with whether we have a problem with interracial relationships, because I really
but
don't think on a whole that Black women do.
even the ones that may have I noticed that even the ones that claim to have a problem with it, historically, if you go back into like basically when we first got here or got freed, it were always basically interracial relationships going on. Some people try to say, the white slave masters' wives always wanted the mandingo, and just all this type of stuff. But even so much that for those that claim they love Frederick Douglass, his second wife happened to be a white woman, and I happen to be a not WB Du Bois, Booker T. Washington student. I love his works, and he preached a lot of stuff, but he preferred or liked white women. I think that a lot of times the problem be like you guys are saying, you're in an interracial relationship. Why are you worried about how everybody else is perceiving you? If that's who you choose to love, that's who you choose to love.
I think it's insecurities though. When it comes to loving who you love, that's fine. But you have to be a strong person to weather that storm. If you decide that you are going to date outside of your race, you have to be prepared for whatever backlash comes.
The feedback, you have to be prepared. Yeah, but I also think when you think of those men back then, again, we was always desired by all men, and when I say that, I say Black women. But I think that Black men, when you go further back in time, that was like a showpiece to have a white woman on their arm. So I think they got out of slavery, and they may have went out of their way to get a white woman. I mean, that's back then. But when you talk about now, like, don't nobody care. Like, don't make me remind you of how educated
I'm gonna ask y'all. I'm gonna ask y'all a question, but I'm gonna ask y'all a question. I kind of know the answer, but I have to ask y'all for the sake of us doing the show. Do you think that it takes away from somebody's blackness when they are into an interracial relationship?
Keisha, you want to expound on that first?
Okay, so here's my thing, because we got a couple of
me and Keisha have talked about this numerous times. I don't want to call them
the C word, but we got a couple in the group. So here's the issue. No one cares. Like, Black women is beautiful. Like, men all over love us. But then you get up there and you be like dragging Black women. So then that's why we feel like it's something wrong. Like, you went out. So, like, I know one in particular. He's a little unfortunate looking. So he's like, Black women didn't like me, and now I got this woman, and she's the best thing in the world. I mean, so he spends his time, and all he talks about is the worst thing the Black community has to offer. Those are the people that we have problems with, like, or then it's another one. He's like a race baiter, so he'll like race bait the white people, and then when he talks to Black people, it's all the negative things. He's never been in the hood a day in his life, and all he talks about is the hood. But these are people who have internal issues. They have internal issues with themselves, internal issues with being Black. Some of us do have PTSD and a whole bunch of issues, but I'm sick of them blaming Black women. Like, we don't care.
Let me ask you. And I know that both of you young ladies happen to be single at the moment, right? Mm-hmm. Speaking to that, I noticed that you very rarely hear people that are in these interracial relationships really have hardcore conversations about race. I was actually surprised Raven Symone or Alfonso finally said something about it, and it's like a little bit, and now they're going to disappear and not keep talking about it. Like I said, it's always them that seem to have an issue with thinking that somebody got an issue about it. and they never want to talk about it. And you would think, and me and Keisha, we share this. You would think that's what they would want to discuss because that's their wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm. I think when you asked the question, you said, "Does it take away from your blackness?"
Mm-hmm.
To some degree, yeah. My personal opinion, it doesn't take. Well, let me take it back. It doesn't take it away, but when you go into certain social settings with your spouse or your mate, and they're of another ethnicity or they're another race, now you find yourself possibly code switching, where you have to speak a certain way, you have to act a certain way. You find yourself at maybe Thanksgiving dinners, eating stuff with raisins and grapes in it, whatever it is, you start doing things that, and you might be okay for the moment. You might be okay for the moment, but you go back
Your
home and you
European
say,
side is coming out.
Oh, you said what?
Your European side got to come out.
Right. And so you start, acclimating to your environment. You start saying, oh, okay, well, yeah, you laugh, you joke, and I have family members that, dated outside their race, and then, they're not dating the race anymore. They feel it's like a relief, because no matter what anyone says, Black women, we can love Black men a certain way. So if a Black man is out here and they're dating, woman of another, they're not really gonna, the other spouse, if they're non-Black, they can't really identify with what's going on with you. Black men face a lot of things when they're outside of the home, and so dating someone from another race, yeah, they don't have the same plight, they don't have the same issues. Some of the things just aren't the same. So I think that to some degree it's like a relief, when you're with your own. And it's not to say you can fall in love with whoever you want to fall in love with. It's not saying that. It's just saying that for her to say that as a culture, the Black community, I don't think we care enough to even, I think, like, again, that was her own personal thing. There's so many different, and then if you want to speak on the different couples, in Hollywood, you have all different types. It's her. I really don't believe that it is just a whole race thing. I think it's Raven. She said something about, again, going back to the names and going back to how she feels about people. She said something about a name and watermelon and all these other things that she spoke about, talking about her race. I think it's a deeper issue here. I don't really think that it has anything to do with race. I think it's deep.
I think Raven hates herself and she doesn't want to be Black, so she's transferring that energy onto the rest of us.
But it's okay.
I'm gonna play the response, or the comment that Funky Diva mentioned about it, and we'll go from there.
Raven Symone story. Did y'all hear about this?
I rolled my eyes so hard when we read this story. Go ahead and get it posted details so I can get this girl together real quick.
Okay. In a recent interview, Raven Symone revealed that, she got backlash from the Black community, and that's what caused her to break up with her white girlfriend, Miranda, who she's now married to. Raven Symone mentioned that she felt uncomfortable in her relationship because Black people would stare at them. Raven's wife, Miranda, says that it caused them to break up in the past, but she had no idea it was an issue because she was raised in a community where interracial relationships were never questioned. Do you think our community is a little judgmental when it comes to interracial dating, or do you think this is something that they're imagining? What do you think?
Now listen, our community is judgmental as hell on a lot of things, and Raven had a cornucopia of reasons for people to come at her. She was bisexual, or however she was identifying. She non-binary. You probably don't wash her ass either with the rest of these damn white folk and all these other things. But I'm here to tell you that Raven Symone, you lying. You sit up here lying, talking about this fear of Black people and Black lives, because Black people wasn't even messing with your ass, Raven. Now, one thing about Raven that I will say, Raven Symone is our token go-to child for, we've got a black star that turned out great, that didn't get on drugs, that's doing great things. But Black people was not paying Raven Symone ass no attention. We didn't give a damn if she was fat, skinny, if she bleached her hair, she bleached her skin, if she was dating women's dogs or flower pots. We did not care. Raven was over there playing with them kids over there on Disney. selling her clothes in Walmart, selling lunch boxes and doing what it is she doing. And black people was at the picnic, which she was never invited to, doing the Frankie Beverly and Mays 2-foot shuffle. Raven made all this up in her head. And it may have something to do with her own upbringing and her family's beliefs, but it damn sure wasn't the Black collective, because Raven, you never even, we have given you invitations to the cookout and you've always declined. You was never there. Raven was never on Black people's radar, so I don't know where any of this is coming from.
I think Symone, we got.
I'm gonna leave it at that. Funky Geneva definitely. Shout out to Funky Geneva on Fox Soul. Wow, he said a mouthful.
He right.
I would venture out to say when he says that, you know, she's the go-to child, she didn't get on drugs, she didn't do all these things. Well, something else. I think it's more than that. Like, yeah, she may not be on drugs. We don't know that, but you know, she may not be on drugs. She may not be, you know, what was the guy's name that was her co-host? The other guy, she may not have turned out like
with the
that.
big head. I know who you're
Brown.
talking about. He tore up too.
What's the guy's name? His last name is Brown. She may not be like him.
Orlando.
Yeah, she may not have turned out like him, but you got to understand, living that life, being in that industry, some other things have actually taken place. And so again, there are several other interracial same-sex couples in Hollywood. No one else even cared enough to even say that. I think that sometimes when she speaks, she just speaks so that, you know, she can speak. I don't really think that she thinks when she speaks.
Yeah,
and make sure if you're on 1 second, Keisha, if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button. If you're on Facebook, make sure you hit the heart emoji, so it could trigger the algorithm. So this lovely show could get, you know, promoted by YouTube and Facebook as a good show. Keisha, what you were saying?
I think Raven got on The View and lost her mind. She got up there and she started talking about Black people, and she wouldn't hire them because of their names, or I don't know what name she mentioned, but she was like, if they had his name, Bonquisha, she wouldn't hire them. I think that's maybe the problem that the Black community have with her, but who she's sleeping with, who cares?
Latasha says typically it's other ethnicities that have the issues. Black folks typically are welcoming to all the races into our families, even if it takes some time.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Nikki, you had mentioned something, and it kind of made me wanted to bring this up when you mentioned you were talking about code switching. For those that don't know, code is something that the great Nellie Fuller had coined. Is that a lot of us, we need to be on code. It's something that's unspoken in the Black community, that really, you know, we don't be out here sucking and jiving to try to fit in. And I know me and Keisha, we talk a lot about how people just want to fit in. You Black, you know you Black, but then when you feel you want to feel comfortable, you change who you are and you start switching. Nikki, speak to it. Speak to that code switching that
so
people do.
With the code switching, and it's funny. When I was younger in high school, we moved outside further down to a different part of Virginia, and I want to say the population in the school was probably about 20% Black, if that, 80% white, and so you find yourself speaking like them because you don't want to sound, you know, you don't want to sound quote unquote Black. And so you end up switching how you speak. Now, for me personally, a lot of us, you know, were taught, I was personally taught, my mother is a person where she is really strong. She wants you to enunciate. She wants you to pronounce every syllable. She is very specific about how she wants you to speak. And so
don't embarrass us.
Hey,
Right.
when I went, exactly, don't embarrass me. And so when we moved back to the States when I was about 5, and I used to go outside and I would play, and I would come back in the house and I start talking like all the kids, and you know, outside. And so she would be like, oh no, inside we don't speak like that. And so that became something as a professional, when you get into an office environment, when you answer the phone, like we used to say, use your professional voice. That's your professional voice. And you know, that was something that you're taught. if, in order to get ahead. It's, oh, you have to use your professional voice, your white voice. And it's something that we automatically do. You switch it on and you switch it off, if you were taught to do that. But some of us, I think now, because we're coming into, we're in a space where Black women are wearing their natural hair. They are showing up as themselves. Men are able to come into an environment where they're wearing locks and, still be considered professional. We're kind of phasing that out. So it's okay if you want to speak how you normally speak, and it's okay if you say some things and they may not be technically okay. Because we're getting to that point, and I think a lot of people are, where we're just comfortable being Black. It's nothing wrong with being Black. There's nothing wrong with being who you are, whether you're a professional. I mean, if you're a professional, you're in that environment, you're there for a purpose. You're there for a reason.
Right.
You got that certificate, that degree, whatever it is. You don't have to switch up who you are. You don't have to. I had a director, and she would say little things. She wasn't from this area. She's from up north. And so when I would come in, and I like to speak to everybody, and the one, she'd say, don't move your hands and don't do this and don't do that, because it's, it's a little ethnic. And so the Caucasian lady, she asked me one day when I came into work, and I've gotten to the place where I'm comfortable being me. I mean, I'm going to tell you, when I walk in, whether, my hair is like this, it's a natural bun. She said something to me, and I just looked at her and I said, you do know I'm Black. We're at that phase now where, no, I don't want to switch how, I speak. I don't. So you accept it or you don't. And I think, going back to Raven, I think that she still hasn't gotten to the place where maybe she is okay being herself, and that is a really big thing with a lot of Black people, like she said, back in the olden days, or back when, what people would deem as acceptable. She's still sticking to that. And unfortunately, a lot of Black people, a lot of people our age, a lot of people that are older, they still stick to these old ways. And times are changing. The millennials are coming in, all these young people coming in, and they're showing up as themselves, and we're still stuck. And
Right.
so we're still stuck, but they're coming in and they're showing up. They're not coming in saying, oh, they're not speaking, they're being themselves.
They're
and
being who they are.
Yeah. And Raven's still stuck back in, like she said, the old ways, old days, because nobody really cares. No one cares anymore. They don't.
Keisha, I know you talk about that a lot when we converse about the code switching that people do.
Oh, I still code switch. If I get over, I'm gonna do it. I'm absolutely gonna.
So sometimes you have to get.
By Caucasians, I cry on demand. I still code switch, but yeah, it's I grew up in a predominantly white area, but I was still babysitting the projects. So it was a way that I acted in one place, and it was a way that I acted in another place. It's a way that I act in front of family. It's a way that I act in front of from the public. Also, Black people was raised with class and decorum, whether we were poor or not. Like, if you come from a church family, you got to wear a slip and some pantyhose.
Keisha, that must be a family thing, because when I told
everybody don't do that.
It's a family thing. It must have been way back from the family, because it's the same with us. Everything she just said is the same way that I was raised. So it's a family thing.
I never subscribed to the slip or the pantyhose. When my mother see me, it's like, you ain't got
young ladies pay attention.
You ain't got a slip on. You ain't got no stockings. I didn't never believe in none of that. But I know the right way of how you're supposed to behave, because that's what we were raised with. And like great-grandparents, great-grandparents, they may not have had a lot, but it's just certain things that we were raised with. So with that being said, you definitely.
But okay. So what she just said, she said it's a right way to behave.
Yeah.
So my problem, and what I always think about, other cultures aren't taught to behave a certain way or
Certain
how
way,
to just
yeah.
be. We're taught that we have to be a certain way or we have to
Yes.
speak a certain way, and they just
Who
be.
they are.
Yeah. So I think that I really like the new way that things are going with the be yourself, be natural, be who you are, because this new generation, they're just they're just showing up.
Yeah, the
See,
new
And
generation
it
don't.
actually,
The new generation doesn't care at all. I think our generation actually started it because I
Mhm.
was very much a rebel.
Mhm.
But I do, and you know, I find myself sometimes falling back on it. Like, you know, I definitely know how to code switch. I definitely know how to turn it on. I used to be like,
Yes.
when you work, I never wanted black women to be like, you know, especially when I was in management, you know, before I
Mhm.
was here. Don't sister girl me.
Mhm.
I have to write your ass up. Don't sister girl me.
Yeah, you
Latasha,
have to set boundaries.
Yeah, because
Latasha
Yeah.
said,
you have to set boundaries. So
Latasha
I
said the
was
old,
setting boundaries all day. It's like they put you, like, I think we were raised to be on defense and the kids weren't. So
Latasha said,
Raven is
Keisha,
a little younger, huh?
Mhm.
she said the older I get, I go out of my way not to speak proper English. I know how to be, I know how to, but I don't want to be. I don't want no more. This
Yeah.
language wasn't our ancient ancestors, and my brilliance isn't predicated on their perception.
Hmm.
Latasha, I think you just
Absolutely.
spoke volumes because I know that
Yes.
the
Yeah.
conversation that me and Nikki had and the conversation that me and Keisha had is that, and I don't want nobody to take what I'm about to say offensive, but think about what I'm saying. You want to be black and white spaces.
Oh,
It is.
child. You know, I say that
It
all the
is.
time.
It is.
And I don't want to be. I want to be black in all my spaces.
And that's
Right.
the thing is that because what happens is, like y'all said, is that we were all taught this is how you act a certain way. It's like
Yeah.
why I
Mhm.
gotta act a certain way, and then it comes up to like Keisha said, our generation where we created cancer culture. No one else. That's ours. That belongs to the black community. The black community created cancer culture. Now it's getting out of hand. So now we see with our kids, like they just, I'm not gonna say they don't care, but nothing seems to bother the young 20-year olds. They don't
They
they
don't
don't get
care.
involved. They don't care.
They don't care. And now you have a whole bunch of Caucasian kids that want to speak black. Now it's hip. Like they want to speak like how we're trying not to, or how we were taught not to speak. You see a lot of them. You have, I know, like sometimes on YouTube or TikTok, whatever the platforms are. Sometimes you'll see, you know, young white women, and they want to be, they want to be so hip or hood or whatever you want to call it. But now you see them, speaking in ways that we were taught not to do, and it's okay for them. It's okay for them.
Mm-hmm. Playing the game.
Yeah, yeah. And it's called playing the game, but I think a lot of times it depends. You get tired of playing the game. You
Yeah, I
do
don't
get
feel
tired of
like
playing the
it.
game. To a degree you
One
have
of
to, but then after a while you get tired of playing the game.
one of the most profound conversations, and I always bring this up. Me and Keisha talk about the conversation on YouTube, and it was all over social media that James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni had. If
Mm-hmm.
you ever went to the whole extended version, it was over an hour long, and the things that they were discussing about relationships. And I just want, for context, I'm just going to say, for those that don't know, James Baldwin was LGBTQ community, and Nikki Giovanni was LGBT community. But they were having a very, very good conversation on being black and being in a relationship. And I think that if a
A
lot of us,
heterosexual
yes, a
relationship.
heterosexual relationship, I think if a lot of us was to look at that conversation and how that conversation is still prevalent now, how we conduct ourselves and how as black people in America, how we feel like when we do go outside of our homes, how we do, like it's like a code switch in our head, like, oh, am I doing this right? Like I ain't walking with too much swagger. It even got so far as when President Obama was the president, they got mad at him about a tan suit. They got him about a tan suit.
Yeah, but it's starting to get. I mean, like I said, I like the new way that the young kids are doing it. You know, it's to the point now where, you know, and it doesn't even really matter if we code switch or if we change the way we walk, the way we talk. We still are being targeted. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. You can code switch. At the end of the day, you know, when it's all said and done, when you're black, you're black. So you can code
Right.
switch. And so, you know, going back to the original subject, so you can say, okay, I don't feel comfortable. You know, if you don't feel comfortable in your own blackness and you're dating outside of your race, you know, then it's going to be a whole bunch of problems. And then I think the problems start trickling down, you know, even more so. And then we won't get deeper into that when they start having kids, and then you start having kids, and then your kids start identifying with certain things, and then some of them don't know how to put oil in the kids' hair. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. You know,
I saw an interesting thing with that, and me and Keisha had discussed that before about didn't y'all tell us that it was the one drop rule? Don't try to change the goalpost now and say the one drop
because
rule
they
is on
having
effect.
mixed kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, because what happens is,
Well, what the hell
you know,
are we?
we discussed that, Keisha.
Oh,
But that's where it comes, where a kid or a child will say they'll identify as saying they're mixed. Well, according to the rule that the goalpost that y'all said is the one drop rule, there's no such thing as being mixed. Like Umar Johnson said, you don't mix white milk and chocolate milk and get mixed milk. It becomes chocolate milk still. According to the rule that was set
you know,
forth,
they
the one
changing
drop
the
rule.
rules, but that's a whole nother
right.
That's a whole nother conversation. They changing the rules, but that's a whole nother conversation. And I said this to Quentin the other day, like, it's a lot of people in Pennsylvania who the KKK that got a whole bunch of black kids. It's a lot of white women that's being they treated horribly with these black men. Okay, so we are not walking around worried about what they going through. Don't nobody want to put up with that. I think that's a fallacy and an untruth. Like, you know, I am drinking my cocktail and eating my lobster and shrimp. I am not worried about if you coming in there with a white woman. So I mean, I think they just need to go away with that narrative.
So if anybody in the chat have any questions for the young ladies before we close, you guys are more than welcome to ask them any question in regard to what we're talking about. And because darling Nikki, this is her first show, and I'm quite sure she's first of many.
Thank you, cousin. Thank you.
And I'm quite sure she's ready to go. She's probably like, yo, let's go. Let's do another one tomorrow. I mean, but honestly, you know, it definitely is a pleasure having both of y'all on. You know, Keisha, you know, I asked you a while ago, let's just go. And you was like, what is you getting me into? And Nikki definitely, when I hit you this week, and you was like, oh my God, you know, like I always say, the universe don't make mistakes on certain things. And, you know, I really appreciate what you guys brought to the show tonight.
Well, thank you.
Did you have any final thoughts, Nikki, about, you know, Carlton pissed y'all off? Carlton bothered me more than Raven, because he always been, yeah.
I mean, if Matthew McConaughey didn't turn into a dirty backpacker, like, that was my ideal man.
That's one.
But then I recognized when I got, you know, I don't eat pork, so I need a black man.
So did he bother you when he told you he didn't shower?
Yes.
Regularly?
Yes. Listen, see, we was raised, you got to put your ass in the tub. Okay?
Right. I was going to say, now as a community, there's some things we'll accept and some things we won't accept. And, and taking a shower and bathing is one of those things that is a must.
You got to start talking about the Moorish history. Like, yo, the Moors came to Eastern Europe and taught them people something.
There's some things that we just, you know, no.
Like I said, I really appreciate you guys in the chat. A lot of new subscribers that Nikki brought to the channel. We appreciate that. Also on Facebook, and we have a public group. It's called Let's Talk One. And the private group, that's Let's Talk Two. You can get in the private group, but you might have to go through some screening first, because we need to be mindful of privacy in our groups and stuff in the channel. And I appreciate everybody that supports the channel and everything. And The best way to support, like I always tell everybody, is like, share, subscribe, share with your friends. Make sure you hit the like button. It's all about the algorithm. One of the things that YouTube does, number one, is they look at how long the viewership of the show, how many people like the show, how many people return to the channel. If you click on Let's Talk and you look at the dashboard, you'll see all the shows we've done for the last 2 years. So, you get a lot. The viewership is up and down, but it's for us, it's not about the viewership. It's all about the content. Any final thoughts, young ladies?
Love who you want to love, and if it shouldn't bother anyone. It shouldn't bother you, especially.
Right. I agree. And I think that, they have just as many issues, if not more. So if they can make it through, God bless them.
Mm-hmm.
With that, Nikki, stay on. Keisha, stay on. We'll talk behind the scenes. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. With that, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please continue to join us here for conversations on hot topics, interviews with special guests, and our featured programs such as the Poetry Corner, where you can hear dope poets from around the country creating that poet cafe vibe, and Crown Rules, our virtual book club on love, intimacy, and healthy relationships. Let's Talk. We are everywhere you want to be. Follow us on YouTube at Let's Talk, Facebook at Let's Talk, and on Instagram at Let's Talk 1931. Have a suggestion? Give us a call at 570-795-4283. Or for business inquiries, please email us at ltalk5600@gmail.com. Let's Talk.